For those of you who have never been exposed to the book of Daniel consists of 12 chapters. Chapter 1 gives the background story for how we come to find Daniel, a Jew, in Babylon, as a wise man and counselor to the king of Babylon. It introduces us with the fall of Jerusalem to Nebuchadnezzar and the taking into captivity of some of the royal seed, including Daniel and his 3 friends. The bulk of the chapter, however, tells of Daniel and his 3 friends rise to the top of the Babylonian court when they are tested with respect to diet and place God first. Chapter 2 tells of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream of a great and terrible metallic statue and Daniel's interpretation of that prophetic dream. Chapter 3 tells the story of Daniel's 3 friends, how they are thrown into a fiery furnace for failure to bow down and worship a golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Chapter 4 tells of Nebuchadnezzar's second dream, a dream of a great and mighty tree that fills the whole earth, and of the king's subsequent madness in judgment for pride. Chapter 5 tells of the fall of Babylon, of the drunken party of King Belshazzar, his last, and the resultant writing on the wall, God's judgment on the king. Chapter 6 tells the story of Daniel in the lion's den, of his stay in the den and his miraculous escape unhurt because he placed God first despite the law of the king. Chapter 7 tells of Daniel's vision at night, of the rise of 4 beasts from the great sea, and of the angelic interpretation of that prophetic vision. Chapter 8 tells of Daniel's vision of a ram and a he-goat, of their conflict and of the resultant future unfolding conflict, and records the angel Gabriel's interpretation of this prophetic vision. Chapter 9 records Daniel's intercessory prayer for his people and their sinfulness and captivity, and tells of God's response to that prayer, the sending of the angel Gabriel with a prophecy of the rebuilding of Jerusalem and the coming of the Messiah. Chapter 10 tells of Daniel's fast for understanding and God's response, a vision of the mysterious man Michael. Chapter 11, a continuation of the vision of chapter 10, has an angel foretelling the rise and fall of kings and kingdoms, and of the conflict between the king of the north and the king of the south. Chapter 12, a continuation of chapter 11, closes the conflict of the king of the north and the king of the south with the standing up of Michael, at which point Daniel receives one final vision of the mysterious man of chapter 10. The book of Daniel and language, a necessary topic, as will be seen. Daniel having been oddly written in 2 languages. The first being Hebrew, making up chapters 1 and 8 through 12. And the second being Aramaic, making up chapters 2 through 7. Why though? Why write like this? Why 2 languages? Why sandwich the Aramaic between the Hebrew? Why these chapters? Is there method in the madness? The answer can be found in a closer look at the Aramaic section, chapters 2 through 7. The book of Daniel and chronology, another necessary topic. If we look at the chronology of chapters 2 through 7, we find chapter 2 occurs first in Nebuchadnezzar's 2nd year. Chapter 3 occurs second, after 2, because of the dependence of the statue of this chapter on that of 2. Chapter 4 occurs third, after both 2 and 3, because it is the culmination of Nebuchadnezzar's conversion story. Chapter 7 occurs fourth in Belshazzar's 1st year, Belshazzar being grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Chapter 5 occurs fifth in Belshazzar's last year, under whom the Babylonian Empire falls. Chapter 6 occurs sixth, under Darius the Mede. The Medes and Persians having replaced the Babylonians as rulers of Babylon following the events of the previous chapter. Why, though? Why write like this? Why write out of chronological order, neither forward nor reverse? Is there method in the madness? The Book of Daniel and theme. Another necessary topic in which we continue to look at the Aramaic section, chapters 2 through 7. Looking at theme, we find chapters 2 and 7 are united in the theme of fallen kingdoms, that is, the rise and fall of kingdoms. Chapters 3 and 6 are united in the theme of kingly persecution, that is, persecution under the king. And finally, chapters 4 and 5 are united in the theme of fallen king, that is, the fall of the king. The structure we have just seen is called a chiasm, named after the Greek letter chi, which became our letter X. The structure is characterized by the parent of A and A prime, B and B prime, C and C prime, where the A's, B's, and C's share a common theme, as in Daniel chapters 2 through 7, or image, imagery, symbolism, words, phrases, etc. There are two types of chiasms. An even chiasm, where 1, every layer is paired, and 2, the emphasis is on the outermost layer. I could actually be wrong about that, in which case the emphasis is always on the center. In either case, it doesn't matter. In the text, what will be seen is the pattern A, B, C, C prime, B prime, A prime. An odd chiasm, where 1, there is a middle element, and 2, the emphasis is on the middle element. In the text, what will be seen is the pattern A, B, C, D, C prime, B prime, A prime. An analysis of chapters 8 through 12 revealed that there is another structure besides that of the chiasm. Looking at theme, we find chapters 8 and 9 and 11 are united in the theme of fallen kingdoms, that is, the rise and fall of kingdoms, while chapters 10 and 12 are united in the theme and personage of the man in linen, Michael. The structure we have just seen is called a repetition or parallel. The structure is characterized by the parent of A and A prime, B and B prime, whereas with chiasms, the A's and B's share a common theme, as in Daniel chapters 8 through 12, or image, imagery, symbolism, words, phrases, etc. In the text, what will be seen is the pattern AB, A prime, B prime. Returning back to Daniel 2 through 7, we have seen that it contains a chiasm. But why? Knowing there is a chiasm there doesn't explain why it is and what it means. Once again, let us look at the themes of Daniel 2 through 7, casting them anew, in other words, rewriting them in finer detail. Daniel 2 and 7, prophecy. Satan's kingdom, Babylon, is unmasked. Daniel 3 and 6, Babylon persecutes God's servants. Note on Daniel 6, symbolically, lions represent Babylon, and Darius, though a Mede, is king of Babylon. Daniel 4 and 5, Babylon falls. Note on Daniel 4, in the Hebrew mind, kings and kingdoms are interchangeable. And God puts the emphasis on the prophecy. But why? Redefining the themes in greater detail still doesn't tell us why or what it means, or does it? The message of Daniel 2 through 7. Prophecy, which unmasks Satan's kingdom, Babylon, leads to persecution by Babylon, as Satan hates those who set his deceived captives free. But to touch you, those teaching and preaching prophecy, is to touch the apple of God's eye. Thus God acts, leading to the fall of Babylon. Recall Daniel 4. In Daniel 4, the fall of the tree in Nebuchadnezzar's dream represents him, the king of Babylon. Can it represent the kingdom also? That is, can a tree represent a kingdom? Assyria, a cedar tree. Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches, and with a shadowing shroud, and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. His height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long. All the fowls of heaven made their nest in his boughs, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwelt all great nations. Thus was he fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, nor any tree in the garden of God was like unto him in his beauty. I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of God envied him. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, because thou hast lifted up thyself in height, and he hath shot up his top among the thick boughs, and his heart is lifted up in his height, I have therefore delivered him into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen. He shall surely deal with him. I have driven him out for his wickedness, and strangers, the terrible of the nations, have cut him off, or cut down, and have left him. Upon the mountains and in all the valleys his branches are fallen, and his boughs are broken by all the rivers of the land, and all the people of the earth are gone down from his shadow, and have left him. Upon his ruin shall all the fowls of the heaven remain, and all the beasts of the field shall be upon his branches, to the end that none of all the trees by the waters exalt themselves for their height, neither shoot up their top among the thick boughs, neither their trees stand up in their height, all that drink water, for they are all delivered unto death, to the nether part of the earth, in the midst of the children of men, with them that go down to the pit. Ezekiel 31, 3 through 14. Postscript. The book of Daniel is really a tale of two cities, Jerusalem, the city of the great king, and Babylon. Symbolically, these two cities represent the two sides at war in this world, God and his people, truth and justice, versus Satan, the accuser, and his people, error and cruelty. God lays down prophetically in the book of Daniel the struggles of these two sides through time in order to equip and ready his people for the coming final battle. God promises in the Chiasm of Daniel 2 through 7 that Babylon will fall, and he invites each one of us to actively be involved. Will you accept the invitation?